Welcome back to the show. Thank you for listening. My guest today, Ben Smith, is a performance coach and integrative wellness practitioner for high-performing founders and creatives, TV, film, and some of your favorite musicians like Rufus Du Sol. Essentially, he helps people learn how to calm down using tools like breathwork, cold exposure, and intentional movement, among other things. He's arrived here through his own journey of having chronic depression and anxiety and using those tools to help him have presence and gratitude in his life. When I first met Ben, I felt like I could talk to him for hours. He's insanely knowledgeable about somatics, the nervous system, breathwork, and cold exposure. In this episode, we talk about the importance of nervous system regulation and how to actually implement that into your daily life, how to tap into your body to help you make decisions, and he shows us how to breathe properly. Hint, you're probably doing it wrong. I think you're going to come out of this episode with more relaxation and deeper presence, which will translate into you being able to take action within your life from a place of intention and creation rather than stress and overwhelm. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ben Smith to the show. Okay, so you just recently had this project come up, this amazing work opportunity, and that could potentially make you a lot of money and also just, you know, be really good on paper and all these things.
Great on paper.
And you just went to go do the thing and you realized that it wasn't feeling aligned for you.
Yes.
How did you, and you mentioned that it was kind of like a feeling in your body. How do you differentiate whether that feeling is just like anxiety because it's a new thing and like, you know, I think it's normal to have anxiety with a new thing versus like, actually, this is a no for me?
Yeah. I think time spent with those feelings has been the most valuable thing for me. Like actually sitting in the discomfort and kind of gaining awareness for myself what something might mean. Like the feelings are similar. The discomfort of doing a thing that's novel or potentially stressful, like that feels a certain way. And it's very similar to the feeling of like, oh my God, this isn't it. This isn't for me. And I think that's probably not the answer that people want to hear, but it's just like time spent, like gaining awareness and understanding what it is for you, because it's ultimately it's you that's in control of that, in control of how you move forward. But I think the place to start for me was like just getting really clear about what it is that I want my future to look like. So without that knowledge, without the understanding that like there is an ideal thing that I'm shooting for, and the things that don't get me closer to that, they don't align. And so once I have that understanding, I can sit with, you know, the things I'm experiencing day to day. And it's like, okay, well, if I know where I'm supposed to go, and I'm feeling this certain way when a certain opportunity is presented, if it gets me closer to that ideal future, then maybe it's the feeling of resistance. Like, oh God, am I going to be able to show up in the way I need to do this thing? But if it doesn't get me closer to that ideal future, then I'm like, okay, maybe I should take note of this feeling. Maybe I should understand that my body's telling me something. And like for the first 30 years of my life, I didn't even know what I was feeling. Like I didn't even know that those things mattered. I lived without feeling. So I'm new to this in the same way that you said you're like new to podcasting. I'm new to feelings. But yeah, just I have an understanding of what it means for me. And it's funny, I try and put language around like, oh, well, it could just be like if I changed one thing, or if I like, you know, gave a little bit here and they gave a little bit there. It's like a negotiation. It's like if we like barter and we get to someplace in the middle, and then I'm like watching myself have this internal battle, and I'm like, wait, you don't want to do this. And then it's like, wow, like I'm like the feeling's gone. I don't want to do it. That's, oh my God. And then you can like, you know, do anything else.
Right.
Literally anything else. Like, fuck, how cool is that? And it's funny, I work with a lot of people and we like create these, like, I work with a lot of people. A lot of the people that I work with or interact with, it's like, we've got these narratives or stories about how things are supposed to be. And it's like, as soon as you can step out of that and be like, oh my God, it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be the opposite of that. It could be like literally anything. And it's never too late. You can do anything you want, whenever you want. Like, I think that's a pretty cool perspective to have. That's very vague and incredibly general, but like, I'm having a moment now where I've like stepped out of something that I thought needed to happen. And I've created the space to not do or to do anything, not just, a thing that's similar or completely opposite. I can do anything I want with the time that I have available to me now, which is crazy. Wild. Yeah. So I was incredibly stressed walking into this today. I'm not so stressed anymore. You have a very calming presence.
It's also this podcast studio.
Yeah, this is really good. It smells so good in here. I don't know if that's Brogan or what.
Could be me.
It smells so good.
Yeah. Could be the fake plant behind you.
It smells so good in here. It's definitely not me.
I love that. But yeah, I feel you on all of that. And I think that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, like, I feel like making decisions and having a process for that is really important and like life-changing. And for so many years, I feel like I had no idea how to make decisions that were aligned for me because I was like, well, is this anxiety? Is this fear? Is this my intuition?
Yeah.
Like trying to figure out how to differentiate all these different voices in your head, and then also being so in the mind and so in the sympathetic nervous system that you're not in touch with your body. And it's so crazy how long it took me to realize that my body is actually my best decision maker.
Yeah. It's the thing that's going to push or pull you in the direction of the thing that is like true for you, as long as you can tap into it and feel into your body. I think you hitting on the nervous system is incredibly important because it's like, the autonomic nervous system is a spectrum of arousal, and one end being like fight, flight, or freeze, the least optimal freeze. That's the sympathetic state. You're activated, you're turned all the way up to 11. There's an urgency, a sense of urgency. Decisions can be made there.
Right.
They're probably not the best ones. They're from a place of like lack,
survival,
scarcity,
fear,
afraid of like losing it all, like that type of thing. If you go to the other end, the parasympathetic state, rest, digest, you're calm, grounded, actually in your body, feeling the things that you need to feel. You can make decisions at a slower pace with more thought, more consideration. Maybe you don't even need that because you're so in tune with your body. You can like just let it guide you and you don't even need to think. But I'm really interested in the way that people show up in their relationships, like with other people and with themselves in a parasympathetic state. So it's crazy. We both were in fitness, and like I started in fitness. That was my thing. But like
me too.
Learned very quickly that like fitness is a small component to a much larger, wellness spectrum, or a group of wellness modalities that like are valuable to people. And the thing that I found is most important is just people having like control of where they sit on that arousal spectrum. And so like all the work I do is just to get people closer to a parasympathetic state more often because they're a better version of themselves there. And so that includes like breath work or cold exposure or even like psychedelic intervention. I think they all have their value, but you asked about cold. I was having a panic attack this morning. And so I got in the ice bath.
Were you having a legit panic attack?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was looking at your Instagram, kind of like prepping for this episode, and you talked about in one of your videos how if you Googled the least calm person in the world, your name and picture would come up. Yeah. Why do you say that?
I think it's funny because that's not how people receive me.
Right.
Like the feedback I get all the time is, "Oh my God, you're so calming." Like my present. This is like a crazy thing for me to say out loud, but like I like shy away from any like, praise or like accolade, but like often I receive the feedback. They're like, "Oh, your presence is so grounding. Like, it's so nice to have you like in the room." And I'm like, quit lying to me. That's insane. Internally, I'm losing my shit all the time. All of the time I'm losing my shit. It's moments like this where I'm not. This is flow state for me.
Flow state. Yep. A good conversation. It's my favorite kind of flow state.
It's the only time that I'm the only time I'm present. And so I seek this out, but like sharing the same air, like the same energy, like there's something about this that takes me out of that like anxious activated state. I haven't yet figured it out. When I do, I'll let you know. But I think it's just a function of my life, like form follows function. I've lived in chaotic environments my entire life. And so like, that's what I know. And so I'm not sure if it's like, I'm manufacturing that experience for myself because it's the thing that's familiar. I don't know. Like I choose anxiety over other states, maybe. But what that, me being the most anxious human that's ever lived, where it's been valuable is it's allowed me to be like a firsthand experiment. Like I am the experiment. And so like everything I do professionally now, or like even with my friends in a non-professional context, is like I'm navigating my own healing journey. And that could be like a physical fitness thing. It could be a mental, emotional, or spiritual wellness. It could be any of the domains, but like I'm navigating my own thing and I'm just inviting you to participate with me. And I love that dynamic as a coach or as like a practitioner. It's like we're shoulder to shoulder in this thing, not like do this.
Totally.
And you're like, okay.
And I'm better than you and I know exactly what's going on. It's like, we really don't.
I don't know anything. The more I learn, like I'm 15 years into coaching, and like the more I learn, I realize that I don't know anything.
Agreed.
I know a couple things that have worked for me and I'm happy to share them. But I'm still the most anxious dude in the world. And like, maybe that never changes. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
And that's kind of what has got you into all of this stuff too. And like, you're like, well, I actually see the evidence for myself and I know it works. And
like 6 years ago or 5 years ago, I was a different human. I was a mess. I had just gotten out of the army. I like lost my identity.
You were in the army for like what, 10 years, right?
10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to college.
What was that like?
I loved it. I loved it. It's a really interesting dynamic to work really hard on something that you think is important. I haven't found it yet. Like since I haven't been able to replicate it in my life. But to like give everything you have for a thing that like everyone that's working on it with you also feels the same way about, like it's an experience unlike anything. I imagine it's similar to like sports team, like the Eagles, like trying to win the Super Bowl or whatever it is. Like they're trying really hard in the same direction. And the military was that for me. It was incredible. I'd been an athlete my whole life. And so I was like the team sport guy. It's funny, since leaving the army, I'm really interested in like autonomy. Which I never thought would be the case for me. Like I was always like the team guy, like team building was my greatest strength. Like, but now I love autonomy. I love being on my own. I love being like the creator and executioner of like all the stuff that I do. But that's like a new revelation for me. But the army was great because it allowed me to be so focused on my work that I didn't have to deal with any of the things that I was feeling. I say great, but like in quotes, but like it was great because it allowed me, it was a distraction from like everything that was internal. So I grew up in a home where I had everything I needed, like materially. Like my father's a dentist, like my mom is like everyone's successful. Like I had everything I needed, except I didn't have the emotional support that I truly wanted. And, you know, as a kid, you don't know that it's not there. Like you think that everybody else's experience is the same as yours. And so I joined the army, and then that was just like my childhood experience, like on steroids, intensified the structure and the feedback was far more intense than what I experienced as a child. And so I grew up like not really having an identity. I was the son to this family. I was the guy in the uniform to this great organization. And then I got out of the army and I like didn't know who I was. I had this incredible identity crisis that grew into a mental health crisis. And I honestly I don't really know how to describe what it is that I was feeling. It was like a loss of purpose, a loss of meaning, a loss of impact. I didn't have the support of this team that I valued so greatly. I couldn't get a job. I like left a relationship. I moved to LA, which like at the time was the most expensive city in America. It's like all these things. And then I was like, well, shit, I don't know how to even explain what it is that I'm experiencing. I don't have language to put to my feelings. I'm not going to reach out to anybody because like, why the hell would they want to listen to me? Like I'm just in their way. And
your childhood was not, you didn't have emotional support. Right. So your belief is that like you need to deal with it yourself.
Right. My belief is that like nobody wants to hear about that.
Totally.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just like kill myself and like not be here anymore. So then the people don't have to worry, which like, I think about that now and I'm like, that's insane. But yeah, I was like, I'm in the way. The pain of living is so great that I don't want to deal with it anymore. And if I were just like to remove myself from this situation, then nobody has to worry anymore. And it's like, I've taken care of myself and they can then, like get on with their lives. And so I attempted suicide a bunch of times, 2018 into early 2019. And I'm so lucky that I had one person in my life who like knew about my situation. It was my roommate at the time, and a guy named Caleb Campbell.
Shout out Caleb.
Fuck, dude.
We love you.
Saved my life. He's a speaker and a nervous system guy as well. But he's about 10 years older than me, and he was farther along in his journey. Was an Army guy, played in the NFL. He's a fantastic human, but he was like, yo, we're going to therapy. Like, you're going to therapy. And like on accident, I was introduced to my now therapist. Her name's Sarah Baldwin. She's in Beverly Hills. Sarah, we love you.
Shout out Sarah.
She's just incredible. But like by accident, I got introduced to a somatic therapist, somebody who was like trauma informed and like a subject matter expert in polyvagal theory, which like happened to be the modality that I needed. Like for the things I was experiencing and the way I was showing up, that was the thing that I needed. And it was a total accident that like she was the person that I invited into my life.
And how did you find her? Was that a recommendation? Okay.
From Caleb. It was like, yo, you're going. My friend, Sarah, you're going. And I was like, sick. He like drove me there, dropped me off. And now we're here, like 5 years later. You asked about the Army. I got off on a tangent, but
that's how it's supposed to go.
I think that the coolest part, and I said it like kind of in jest, but like the coolest part about the Army is because I like didn't have any knowledge, or I was naive. I was completely naive to like therapy or like healing modalities outside of like a clinical setting. Like if there's not a medicine for it, I don't know how to heal it type of thing. And it has really shaped my introduction to Sarah, my introduction to the somatic healing world has shaped how I view not only like fitness in the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual way, but healing, where it's like, there are so many things that we don't know until you try. And like, I love that now the way that I show up for people is like, yo, I've tried all this stuff. Like like I said, I'm the guinea pig, and like, I would love for you to try. And so now I just create a safe space for people to try a thing that might be inherently scary. And then very quickly we realized that like, you should be really excited about this. And so like, now I just get people excited about a thing they didn't know they were excited about, which is like so cool. But that's it. That's the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was there like an impactful moment, maybe like during when you had first started doing therapy, when you had like that maybe aha moment where you're like, oh, whoa, I just felt my body for maybe the first time, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So breathwork is my favorite modality, my favorite, like, I don't even know what you'd call it, somatic modality, or my favorite way, my favorite opportunity to get from your head into your body, breathwork. Like, it's the best.
Okay, before we continue, will you show us how to take a real, explain how to take the right kind of breath? Because I remember when I went to your and Anna's workshop, and you were like in the room of like, I don't know, 40 people.
Yeah.
You were like, there's 4 people doing breath properly.
Yeah.
And I feel like that matters a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's like, if you don't have the vocabulary, how are you going to speak the language? I couldn't.
Yeah.
And so most of us, we talked about the autonomic nervous system, that spectrum, sympathetic on one end, parasympathetic on the other. In an agitated state, or maybe just in like an unconscious state, like you're not aware of how you're showing up, how you're breathing. A lot of us are in this chest, we're breathing in our chest. And so it's like short, shallow breaths. They're really rapid. You're not bringing much air in. You're probably breathing with your mouth. So there's like no oxygen saturation. It's just like a futile effort, in getting really high quality breaths in. And so I often challenge people. I say like, okay, feel your belly, feel the sides of your body. If you're in a seat like this, push your back into the chair behind you. We're going to breathe in through the nose, because that's what the nose is for. The mouth's for talking and eating. The nose is for breathing. You're going to breathe in through your nose. You're going to fill from the bottom up, belly first, big and round, like soften around the air, fill your chest, feel the air creep up into your throat. When you get to the top, you just pause. You hang out for a second. You note how you feel, the change in the pressure in your body. There's tension now here in your belly. Your chest might feel tight. And I know I'm talking a lot, so people are breathing along with this. They're probably like, oh my God, tell me to breathe. You're fine. Then you purse your lips, and you force the air out through your lips. It'll slow down your respirations. It'll add a little vibration. It'll let you drop into your body. You don't have to always breathe like that. Like there's different ways, but if you're new to this thing and you want to like figure out how to actually use your diaphragm, it's a band of muscles just below your lungs. If you want to use that band of muscles to expand your body in a way that allows you to pull in the most air, slow and controlled is best. So in through the nose, belly first, soften around the air. Big and round. Chest second, feel the air creep up into your throat. When you get to the top, pause, just check in. There's tension in my belly, pressure in my chest. Maybe I feel my heartbeat in the back of my throat. That's good. You're alive. Then when you let it go, you're going to purse your lips and slow and controlled. You're going to force the air through that little tiny slit in your lips. Let it vibrate just a little bit. You can feel yourself drop into your body. And as you do more breaths, it compounds, right? As you do more, your ability to drop deeper and deeper and deeper, it increases over time. It's like, okay, we've like opened the gate. It's like a faucet. We've like turned it a little bit. Okay, another breath, we turn it a little bit. Another breath, we turn it a little bit. Then pretty soon, all you're worried about is softening around the air as you pull it into your body. It's like, how much deeper can I get? How much wider can I get? And I think, actually, I know a lot of people are scared to like surrender to it.
Yeah.
You being big and round here doesn't make you big and round out there.
I was going to say,
like, fill up. Yeah.
As a woman, like my whole life, I was just, and probably men too. I don't want to say that's just a female only experience, but just like, you know, like just sucking in so hard.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started breath work, my diaphragm was so tight.
Yeah.
I hated breath work. It like hurt.
Yeah.
And I could really only do it to a certain degree. And because I wasn't realizing that you can actually, like, if you're breathing into your diaphragm, you can release a lot of tension.
Sure. And then just think about it from like a muscle perspective. Those are muscles. If you're moving the muscles and you're training the muscles and you're getting like more, you can say plasticity, but you're getting more movement in the muscles, then like they're going to work better for you later. And so it's like, if the goal was like to have rock hard abs that like look and function well or look and function great, like you'd want to use those. And so like often I'll have people come in and be like, oh, I want to look skinny and lean. And I'm like, that's okay. Use your muscles. They'll get stronger and you'll look skinny and lean. Like you'll be fine. Mm-hmm. You'll also be deeper in your parasympathetic and you'll show up better as you in your relationships, in your work, like all the other stuff. And purely just from breathing deeper. Which is nuts.
It's funny because in the workshop that I went to, I was very aware of like, I'm pressing, like it's like a balloon, like I'm pressing my belly out and it's like, it's so funny that I've had to overcome like literally being seen with my belly pushed out.
Yeah.
And how good that feels. But it's also like something in the back of your mind of like, it's intimidating.
It is.
As scary. Dumb as that is.
It's also not unique. Like everyone, like that's
every single person feels that.
I experienced that too.
Yeah.
I'm lucky my background's in like strength and conditioning. So like breathing and bracing is like step one. Like if you're going to play a sport and the sport incorporates resistance training, it's like we teach breathing and bracing first, because if you don't know that, you can't do the other things. It's like the vocabulary thing. If you don't have the vocabulary, you can't speak the language. I'm lucky that my background was there. So I understood breathing for performance, but now it's funny, like the breath that I incorporate or the breath work that I do now is more about just like I said earlier, getting out of your head into your body and then welcoming whatever comes from that. It's like, that's the gateway into improved performance. And I keep harking on this. I keep talking about relationships, but it's like, for me, the goal of all of this practice is like to deepen the connection to myself, which is a relationship. And then in turn, deepen my ability to connect with other people. And so the parasympathetic Ben shows up a lot better than the other one. Than the stressed out one. Yeah, I appreciate you breathing deep in that experience, because you were one of the handful of people who actually were able to participate. The rest of the people were trying hard, and there's value there.
Absolutely.
It's like if it's a novel experience, you do the best that you can. And then because you have this perspective or you have this, awareness around how you showed up the last time, you can then like deviate. If you don't have a baseline, you can't make a change. So it's like, for everybody listening, if you're scared to do a thing, whatever it is, breath work, that new business, like start the thing. And then once you've gained some awareness, or like you understand where you are right now, like those maps in the mall where it's like, you're here right now, like this is where you are. Once you know where you are, then you can make a change. And like, this is totally off on a tangent, but it got me thinking about this. So I'm obsessed with movement, and movement, like it could be physical movement. It could be like any other type of movement, but like movement begets momentum, and momentum beats motivation all the time. It's like, I'm never motivated.
Ooh, I love that.
I'm never motivated to do a single thing. The opposite of, in the same way that if you Google the most anxious person that's ever lived, my photo comes up. If you Google who's the least motivated person of all time, my photo also comes up. It's the same photo. I don't want to do anything ever, but I just know that like that future version of me that lives the life that I want to live, he does a certain number of things like in a day. And so I do the things, I start moving, and because I move, then I have momentum, and then momentum, you know, takes me places that motivation or like a fleeting feeling of happiness or excitement might take me. And so, yeah, I think just getting started is really good. And if specific to the breath, just like taking awareness of how the breath or how the air feels as it moves in through your nose, how your body feels as you're full of air, and then you having control as you let it leave your body. The breath practice for me, another tangent, the breath practice for me has taken many forms. And now more than anything, it's an opportunity to be present first. Like if I drop out of my head into my body, I'm here, present in the room, in my body. My feet are flat on the ground, my butt's square in my seat, my back, it's like straight and it's strong. I'm relaxed, I'm here. Because I'm here, I can be grateful for all the things that I have with me right now. And it could be like, oh, wow, I'm grateful for like these pants. They're like really nice and they look good and I feel great in them. Or it could be like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to sit and talk to you, or like the friendship that we're building, or like, you know, any number of things. And because I'm grateful, I can be so excited for everything that's to come. So I'm like, okay, well, shit. I'm present. I'm grateful. I'm excited. I'm not scared of anything. And I can start movement on that thing that I'm thinking about, because we're all thinking about a thing that we need to like do. For me, it's a difficult phone conversation tonight at 5 p.m. For you, it could be something else, but it's like, because I'm excited now, I'm good.
Yeah. I feel like what you're speaking to is when we get so stressed or in our heads, or we're doom scrolling, or that's my best escape.
Yeah.
When we're doom scrolling and we know that we want to go to the gym, or we want to do the project that we don't want to work on, it's like a simple thing you could do is just get into your body. And the simplest way to do that is by taking deep breaths.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple, like I just said, but even that movement creates a momentum. Yes. Where now you make a better decision, and maybe then you go to the gym, but it's like the gym felt so hard to get to because there's just a huge amount of like action that kind of, you know, energy, a lot of decisions that need to be made to get there. Maybe in my mind sometimes.
There you go.
But when you just do the deep breath, it's like, oh, okay, I can take a deep breath right now.
That was really profound. And I think you put better language to it than I did. But I said, you know, if it could be physical movement, like moving your body, or like this is just movement, just a different form, but it's movement that like begets momentum in the direction of something valuable. But without knowing what that thing is, then it's like really hard to move in that direction. So the question I ask people constantly is like, what do you want? Like if I sit down to work with somebody, or like if someone comes to me with like a complaint or like an inquiry or like anything, I'm like, well, what is it that you want? So like as soon as you can take ownership over like a very clear future that's ideal, or a future that's worth living to you, then like we can take active steps in the direction of that future. And really it's like, it's only one positive action step that you need to take. And so for me, a guy who lives with like chronic anxiety, and I'm constantly in like a freeze state. So I blow past fight, flight, and I'm a block of skin and bones and water stapled to my floor. I'm a floor person. You would be appalled at the number of minutes I spend laying on my floor in like comatose like state in a day. It's nuts. But I have some step actions or some like little things that I employ in those moments. And I think it goes back to the first thing I said. It's like all about creating awareness. Like if I can become aware of the fact that I am experiencing a thing that is like not valuable to me right now, then I can like take active steps. And so for me, it's like I start my day, I start every morning this way, and I have for like the last 6 years to reinforce the pattern, but I put my feet flat on the ground. I feel my feet on the floor, toe, midfoot, heel. I work my way up to my butt. It's square on the edge of my bed. I'm grounded, centered. I'm here. My back, it's straight and it's strong. I relax my shoulders. I soften my arms, and I feel the weight of my hands in my lap. And I do that. And I take a deep breath. I fill from the bottom up. I soften around the air. I do the same thing I taught you, or I just shared with you. I feel the tension in my belly, the pressure in my chest. I note my heartbeat. Okay, I'm alive. I feel good. I'm here. I think about something that I'm grateful for. I purse my lips, and I imagine that air is my gratitude leaving my body. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to push the thing that I'm grateful for into the world around me, and it's going to like support me in the absence of support from a human being or from something else. It's like my gratitude for living and for being here is going to support me in my day. I get up, I get a glass of water. I note the temperature of the water, how it tastes. I feel it go down the back of my throat. Like, okay, there's my body. Wow. We're here. And then I walk outside. I get outside. I try and wear as little clothes as possible. I feel the air on my skin, and I never take my phone. I do this thing, my therapist, Sarah, shout out Sarah. We do this thing called a wonder walk. So I look only outside my personal bubble. So no phone, no nothing. I just look. And I try and move my eyes across my visual spectrum as often as possible. And this, like, all of these practices are down regulation tools. So I can start my day from a place of like grounded acceptance and like surrender. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but like from a place of surrender where I'm like, okay, everything's fine. I'm open and welcoming to anything that might come my way. And so I employ that same 3-step thing, the feet on the ground, the check-in with the body, the water, and the walk. I incorporate that anytime I'm feeling like stapled to my floor in a moment of freeze. It's harder than it sounds to like get up when you don't want to do that. But I know for sure that like moving in that way will be valuable. That 3-step process you talked about, being a girl and feeling uncomfortable, like being big and round with your breaths. My background is an eating disorder. So I had an eating disorder for most of my 20s, my teens into my 20s. It started with binge eating disorder and then anorexia. People often swing like from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I was anorexic for the last part of my teens into my 20s. I joined the army, and they're like, holy shit, you're way too skinny. You have to like eat more food. I was uncomfortable eating more food. That turned into bulimia. And so for most of my 20s, I was bulimic. And when I moved to LA 5 years ago, I thought it was over, but it wasn't, because like that was a very chaotic period of my life, and all these things showed up for me that I thought would never come back. But employing that same 3-step thing, like in a moment where I felt like I needed to binge or distract myself or numb myself with food, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to check in with my body, feet flat on the ground. I do a deep breath. I drink a glass of water. I'd go outside for a walk, knowing that when I came back, the food would still be available for me. Like I could still eat if I needed to. And every time I came back, I'd be like, oh, I don't need that. I'm good. And so it's funny. It's an interesting thing to note that like, just by doing that, just by changing my perspective slightly in an acute moment of stress, I could like have a different outlook and like not need the thing that I felt I needed. Yeah. And I think that goes back to your earliest question about how do you know if it's just resistance of doing something that's going to be hard but valuable, or if it's actually your body saying, don't do this thing. And it's like having experiences like that where you're able to like actually check in and actually see for yourself what the feelings mean. I think that that's, again, the thing that people don't want to hear, but it's like, it's time spent doing the work that's going to be most valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were so many other things to your last point that I wanted to talk about, but they're out of my head now. So we'll have to keep
There's always so many things. I mean, we could spend hours, which is honestly why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because the first time that I met you, I was like, I could talk to this person for hours and hours. And I was like, I feel like we could have a solid conversation.
Yeah, I'll come back. We can do another one.
Let's do that. That sounds great. We'll cold plunge.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
This is also a thing. So I'm having an internal, just to be like candid on the thing. I talk about this stuff all day long, every day. And so part of me is like, and it doesn't really show up on my social media. It doesn't show up publicly.
Right.
I am afraid to be more public with the work that I do. Everything I do at this point has been like word of mouth or referral based.
Why do you think that is, that you're afraid to share about it? Is it like an imposter syndrome thing?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Got it.
I've had success in other domains. Like I've been a fitness guy for a long time. Fitness is easy. I mean, you've experienced the same thing. Fitness is easy, but you can Google all that.
Mm-hmm. So
Like,
it's the comfort zone.
yeah, it's like, people are always like, well, like what's the reps and the sets and the weight and the rest times? Like how important is the rest time? I'm like, I don't know, Google it. Like
Yeah,
it's
totally.
That's easy shit.
Yeah.
The stuff where I have to like actually expose myself, is scary. It's scary for me. But like if it's in this context, like if it's us in a room having an experience, I'm very comfortable. But pushing it on the internet, it's a thing that feels scary to me, and it's my challenge to myself, you know, every single day to be more public with the work. And so opportunities like this are me stepping into something that is scary. But the point I was going to make was I talk about this all day, every day. And there's a little voice in the back of my head that's like, yo, shut up, dude. Just like, shut up. Just shut your mouth. And it's been going the whole time. It's been going the whole time I've been here. But like, I understand that like, just because I know this stuff and because you know this stuff doesn't mean that everyone else knows the stuff. And so, yeah, this is just me being candid that like I have a little voice in my head that's like, yeah, dude, just stop talking. Like,
yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, we also live in Venice, and I always have to check myself because Venice is where almost all the like wellness trends and the best, like the newest research and the newest wellness companies and the like best wellness facilitators and in the world, in my opinion. And so all of our friends understand the nervous system. Yeah. I mean, I've done breath work a million times at every event I've ever gone to, like cold plunging. We're cold plunging at every event now. Like, you know, it's just like so normalized to us, but it is so not normalized to, you just step like a couple miles out of our radius and it isn't. And so I'm always having to, I mean, this is the reason why I want to have this podcast is because my everyday life is just constant exposure to the coolest shit. Yeah. And it's so normal for me, but I know it's not for people outside of my area code. Yeah. And so I just want these conversations to be available to everyone because the reality is like, really, I mean, if we all knew how to regulate our nervous system, like this stuff with like Israel and Palestine wouldn't be happening. Like so many things, we'd be more peaceful.
Yeah, and it's not just learning how to downregulate. It's like having control over where you sit, because like both ends are valuable. Like there are times when being agitated or being in sympathetic is valuable. It's there for a reason. And it's like just gaining the ability to control where you sit. That is the secret sauce. Like, you know, starting with learning how to downregulate is probably the place to start because, you know, we're chronically stimulated. But I think to your point, it's like there are so many different versions of the work, like because we have access to ice baths or we have access to breath work or we have access to all these cool wellness modalities that like a lot of the rest of the country and world don't have access to. We get to see it in so many different forms. And I'm sure you've experienced this, but like my brand of cold exposure, my brand of breathwork, my brand of all these things is more about just like surrender, being calm, being present, then grateful, then excited. And I see a lot because it's like so accessible now where the vibe is a lot different. It's like a party and it's like agitated and it's like people screaming while you're in the ice. And like, sure, there's a time and place for that. But like, I think maybe also my fear of being more public with the work is like, my thing isn't flashy. It's not novel. It's like you connecting with yourself in a moment of activation so that you can realize that you're powerful and you can withstand that stressor so that when a stressor shows up later, you can also navigate that one. Like that's the point of the work. And like, so I have, you know, being candid again, I have this like thing where I'm like, people want like a flashy party with like lights and cheering and screaming. And like, I was a group fitness guy for a long time and I was never that. I'm not your cheerleader. I'm here to hold space for you to navigate a thing that's probably scaring the shit out of you. It scares the shit out of me. But like, we're in this together and we can share in the experience. And because you did a hard thing here, you can do a hard thing there. Like, that's the point for me. And I don't see that a lot. I don't see that language a lot, but like that's how I do it. And so, you know, it's like I'm a new kid in school and I got to like prove my thing valuable or prove my thing worthy. And so there's a lot of like internal fear around it. But I found a really cool niche. I found a really cool space to do the work that I do where it's like really valued and accepted. And so we didn't talk about it, but I like work with musicians mostly. So I travel for like 250 days a year. I build out sustainable wellness programs for them and their teams. And really the focus of it is nervous system regulation and stress management. You can imagine like being a solo act or a band on the road. There's like a billion things happening all the time, travel, requirements with like not only the venue, but the label, your own team. Like it's just a whole bunch of stuff. And so staying grounded, staying present first, grateful second, and then excited third is like the most valuable, or I have found is a very valuable way to navigate touring. And so I found a cool little space to do the work that I do.
Yeah. And not to mention and I know we talked about this before, but like you work with some huge artists that are like on a stage and who are experiencing a large amount of dopamine at a time, and amongst other neurotransmitters and like all these amazing chemical cocktails that can totally dysregulate you.
For sure.
And so it was cool to hear your process of helping them regulate because and we can all see there's so many artists that just go off the rails or are regulating by like drinking or using drugs or, all the things. And so it was cool to hear your process of like helping them regulate, because I'm like, if you can help artists like that regulate, it's like a regular person can absolutely do it.
Yeah. Well, I think like stress is stress. Like nobody's experience is like more grave than another. Like maybe objectively, sure, but subjectively, the stress you experience or the activation you experience like mirrors what somebody getting on stage might experience. Like yours could be having an interaction at the coffee shop, and theirs could just be like playing the music to 50,000 people. It's like the same experience, like just in a different container. It makes perfect sense that somebody specifically touring would fall into a place of like addiction, or I call it like distraction, where like, they have access to everything they could possibly want, people, substances, like whatever it is, it's available to you. And like, if, the larger your act, the more resources you have available, it's like you have anything available. And so it would make perfect sense that if you're like living that life, those things would show up for you. And so, everybody that I work with, we tour sober or sober-ish, generally
California sober.
Generally, generally sober. That's like a prereq that I have, or at least I've had up until this point. So I think it also creates the space, kind of like we were talking earlier, creating the space to do a thing that is actually valuable. And so it's like, if we remove that distraction, then we actually get to do the work. And so, everybody I've worked with up until now has been interested and committed to doing touring sober. And we can look at touring as an opportunity for growth and expansion, not one of like, falling apart. I don't know the word. I don't have the language right now, but like, classically touring is like, it just ruins you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But I've built out a pretty cool system, and it really just involves lifestyle. It's like decisions, behavioral choices. Yeah. And like,
it's not like wildly like crazy.
It's shit you're already doing.
Yeah. You're not like giving them tons of supplements and like all the bullshit. Yeah.
I call it, I call it a number of things, but what we could say, it's like preference-based coaching. It's like the system or the protocol must fit your life. You and I both know you're not going to change your life to fit a protocol. You don't care that much. Nobody does. So it's like the protocol or the practices or the mechanisms or whatever you want to call them, they have to fit the life that you already live. And then once you can build confidence in your ability to like bring those things in, then you stand a better chance at like potentially changing your life. But through the integration of those practices, you'll probably change anyway. And so for me, a lot of it is like getting really clear. So there's like a question I would pose like to a group or to an artist. It's like we figure out what we want. What do you want? And if it's like to make the best performance every night, like then we pose the question, does this make the show better? And if the thing doesn't make the show better, then we probably don't do it. If it does make the show better, then we have an opportunity to say, okay, is this valuable for us right now? And so a lot of it is like removing stuff that doesn't really get us closer to the thing that we want, and then focusing a lot harder on the things that do. And, you know, more than anything, I think just taking a stand for people. I've been working with this group called Rufus Du Sol. I'm sure many of the listeners are familiar. They've done incredible stuff over the last couple of years. We've been together almost 5 years now. And the thing that I do for them is I just take a stand for the things that they say they want. So I can just be like an objective reference point being like, yo, like shit is chaotic. Like you're famous now. That's fucking wild. But like stuff is chaotic, but like we're right here. And like more than anything, we're right here and we're so thankful for like what's right here, because like that's the thing. It's not the accolades, it's not the awards, it's not anything else. It's like it's the thing we're creating. They're writing now. They're in Austin writing, and I'm not there with them for this week, but like it's just a reminder that like that's the thing. Like the time spent in the studio creating, like that's their thing. And it's like that can show up for everybody. Like there's a thing that you create. It might be this podcast, it might be something else. But looking for incredible opportunities to create and show up authentically and like do the thing that you're meant to do. Like, I think that that is like a cool byproduct of like getting really clear, getting into your body, and then like taking action.
Yeah. It's basically all for the purpose of creating.
For sure. And people are like, well, I don't know. I don't really have an outlet to create. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like watercolor painting? Or is it like crochet? Like I should crochet, like knit sweaters and stuff. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no.
So random.
I'm like, no. Or like play an instrument.
No, I love it. I love it. I love the crochet.
The reason that came up is because like I tried crochet.
I love that so much.
I've done, because I would, like the things that we're talking about, like I live that. I was like, well, how the fuck, what's my creative outlet?
Yeah, totally.
So I've like played music. I like took voice lessons for 2 years, like a lunatic. I'm not good. It was a really fun experiment, but I like did crochet. I did watercolor. I like tried to learn to DJ. Like this is all in the last like 5 years. I've like done all these things and I'm like, it's not sticking. What is it? And I was like, okay, wait, maybe like creation is like me creating myself. Or like I said it before, relationship. It's like building a relationship. That's creating. But it's like the way that I build the most valuable, fruitful, authentic relationship is by showing up as me. And it's like the version of me that I'd like to contribute to a relationship is the one that's calm, that's grounded, that's centered, that's present. And it's like, that has been a really cool realization because we all experience that. Like that situation is not unique. We all need to grow in our relationships with ourselves. We need to grow in our relationships with other people. And it's like, if I can frame that as creation, then it's like, oh, we all can create. And that's like, that's my creative outlet right now, is like growing in relationship with people. And it's scary and it's hard and it brings up a whole bunch of stuff that I like never thought I'd need to like explore, but it's been really cool. Because I do a thing where it's like I let people in and then I'm like, oh my God, this is too much. I got to keep you at an arm's length. Anna is really great at this. Like we're friends and I feel myself. She's like very much like, oh, like I'd like to do this. I'd like to be in your life. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot for me. But it's been a really cool experience to notice when I feel those things and then like lean into the discomfort, because I have awareness around what is actually like a signal to not pursue it versus a signal to actually dive deeper. And I'm like, oh, I'll dive deeper. That feels good. Doesn't feel good, but I know it will, type of thing.
It's like a certain part of it doesn't feel good, but the deeper part of it feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah. The actual connection.
Yeah.
Like the byproduct.
Yeah,
the future,
exactly.
The future worth living.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing you want.
Yeah.
Is that.
I love that you just said that, because a thought that I've had in the back of my head this whole entire conversation is that if I don't ask the question, what do you want? I already know. What you want is the thing that's existing right now. And it's people are like, oh, that's not true. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be lonely. Well, like, yeah, you do, because the results show that that's what you want. If you wanted something else, you would do a different thing for sure. And it's like getting clear on how this potentially serves you, like me not showing up as an authority or me not being public with the work I do. How does that how is that valuable to me? How is it really the thing that I want? Well, it keeps me safe. I don't have to step out of my comfort zone. I get to like live in my little bubble and work with the people that I know care about me and I care about them. It's like I don't have to open myself up for critique or like negative feedback or anything that could potentially harm me. So it's like I sit here and talk about all the things that I want, but like the results are actually showing the thing that I want.
Right.
And which is a wild to have this perspective and to know that for sure. It's a constant battle daily where I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, get in there, like get to work, do the thing.
I feel like it's like what your human wants versus, if we want to get a little like, I don't know, spiritual, but like versus like what your soul wants or like your higher self. Cause it's like your human self kind of wants the safety and the comfort. Yeah. But then your soul wants to experience
everything,
the fullest. Yeah. The soul wants to experience creation and like, and so it's like, it's so interesting. It's all these different parts of ourselves. Yeah. And it can be difficult to integrate all of those parts of ourselves.
For sure. And it's a wild thing to think about where it's like, it just takes, like I said earlier, it's one right active step in the direction of that thing that you want, that future that's worth living. And it's hard. It's really hard to like triage and be like, okay, I need to focus my energy here. Like maybe it's a spiritual thing. Maybe it's like connection to source or like a greater power. That's like the thing that's going to get me closer. Or like maybe it's connection to myself, or maybe it's some other thing that I don't know about. A thing that shows up for me often. It's like, well, I know about all these things. It's like, where do I put my energy? And when I figure it out, I'll let you know. But like, I don't know. So I just do the things that I know for sure are valuable. And so like returning back to the breath, the cold exposure thing shows up in my life all the time. Moving my body intentionally, eating food that's valuable for me. And then like my favorite now is incorporating play, which is like a thing that I didn't even know was a thing. Like I didn't even know that was important. So looking for opportunities to experience life without any expectation has been really cool. And that shows up usually like in the form of going to watch music or spend time with, friends. I don't really party. I got sober and I don't party anymore. So I don't really have that outlet. But yeah, it's all very exciting to like sit and talk with you about this. It's like, there's so many cool things that await everybody listening. It's like just getting, again, really clear about what you want. I think that's like the first step for everything. You said, I cannot remember the language. You said human, and then you said soul. Okay. So talking about movement or motivation, or like a word that I don't really like, but like discipline is like a frame to look at action through. It's like there's this idea of like discipline, which in my mind could be like the aggressive like high school football coach. It's like, yo, you better work hard or I'm gonna like beat the shit out of you, or like whatever it is. Yeah. Like that sucks. That's like a place of lack and a place of fear and like playing not to lose. Like I better do this thing or else type of idea. And then this spiritual side, I like to think of it as devotion, and it's not tied to like religion, but spirit. It's like, what does that realized or actualized version of you, how do they show up? What's the thing that they do that serves them or feeds their soul? And like, if you can just find that, like if that can be your guiding light or your aim, it's like devotion versus this discipline thing, then I'm going to work my way into a place where I feel more alignment. I feel more acceptance. I feel more energy towards the place I'm supposed to go. And I love this idea. This is not my idea. Somebody way smarter than me shared this with me, but the idea is like you become the thing you're trying to be. Just become it now. Like the person that Ashlyn wants to become, just like do the things that person does now, and then you'll have all the things that you wanted to have, like already.
It sounds so simple.
I'm butchering that. I'm thinking of one guy in particular. His name's Dan Tacchini. He's like a executive leadership and business development guy, a mentor of mine, but he says it so eloquently. And he's like, yeah, just be, do, have. Be the person, do the things that person would do, and then have all the things and more. And I wrestle with that all the time. I'm like, oh God, that's so simple. Yeah, but I start with the breath.
But that's what that goes exactly aligned with what we're talking about with the breath and the nervous system, which is like be, do, have. And it's like, you might hear that and be like, okay, yeah, it just simply, okay, if this is the person that I want to be, just be her now. But it's like, there's reasons why I'm not her now. Sure. And a lot of that is like, is the nervous system and what is my capacity even for the thing that I want. And a lot of times, or I've experienced this myself, where it's like I want, like, okay, let's just say when I first started my coaching business, I'm like, oh yeah, I really want 20 new clients. And it's like, okay, but is my capacity for 20 new clients in my nervous system and my energy and my time
I just threw up in my
available?
Mouth.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it goes back to like, you know, just working with the body, and being has a lot to do with presence and surrender and just getting into your body and breathing. And then you can do the thing. So it's exactly what you're saying, where it's like be and then do and then have.
Presence, gratitude, excitement.
Yeah. I love those
first.
steps.
Presence first.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, to like expound on that, it's like you don't even know, unless you don't even know that it's your body that's keeping you from accessing that next level. Like you can't outthink a feeling problem.
Totally.
There's not another course that you're going to take, or like there's not a new business mentor who's going to give you some secret sauce. Like I've been there.
Same.
The tens of thousands of dollars I've spent on courses, and I've taken all of them. But it was like, it wasn't until I just realized that like, oh God, it's like I have to solve this thing first. And like, I'm nowhere near the finish line. I just understand that, oh, this is another really good one. Okay. So are you familiar with finite and infinite games? We talked about this in your kitchen, I think.
Okay.
This is like one of my favorite. This is my favorite way to frame a wellness journey, or like a self-healing journey, or any type of like long-term, journey or experience. But so there's this idea of finite and infinite games, and a finite game would be like you and I go and play basketball. Like I know that I'm playing against you, you know you're playing against me. There's a set of rules that are defined, and we're both going to follow them. And then at the end of the game, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. Finite game.
Okay.
Now the infinite game is like you and I are playing, but there's also other people playing, and they don't know about us and we don't know about them. We know about some, but not all. There's some rules. I'm not super clear on them, and neither are you, but there's other rules that we haven't been told about, and they're going to like apply. We just don't know. And then at the end, there's no winner. There's no loser either. We just kind of exist there and we wait to play again. And that's the infinite game. It's like really open-ended and like vague. And the goal of the infinite game is not to win, but it's to continue playing the game. And so like these journeys, it's like self-healing journey, or like a fitness journey, or even more specific, like a weight loss journey, or even like building a relationship or a business or a spiritual venture. Like these are infinite games, and the goal of those games are to continue playing the game. So if you had that context, or if you framed your existence in the world in that way, where there was no winner, no loser, no rules, which is wild, there would be no urgency. Like there's just calm. There's just presence. The only thing that's real is this moment right now. Why would you want to be anywhere else? Like, I don't want to be anywhere else. I'm right here. So if you knew that, like it would change how you show up, I think. And so, I coach a lot of fitness. And so I often will talk about fitness or the pursuit of like a better body or feeling better in your body through that lens. And people are like, oh, wow. If you knew that the only way you blow it is by quitting, then it would change how you play. I think that is a really cool way, kind of back to that like devotion versus discipline, or the human versus the spirit body. It's like a really interesting perspective just to have on self-development or how you show up in the world.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Just like keep playing. Crazy.
Wild thought.
Also too, like nobody knows what they're doing. Like that's
oh my God, totally. Everything is a scam.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't.
No one knows what they're doing.
My favorite thing ever is being wrong. My favorite thing ever is being wrong about something, or like, and the way that you the way that I have found to be more wrong about stuff is to put myself in front of people who have different perspectives than I. Like the greatest gift they could ever give me is something that would afford me the chance to change my perspective. Like, yes, please do more of that. And I've been wrong about so much stuff and I love it. And I'm excited to be wrong about all of this tomorrow. But like I think just knowing, back to the frame, it's like knowing that like the goal of the game is to just keep playing, then like being wrong is okay. Mm-hmm. Like making the wrong choice, a belief I have about myself is that I make bad decisions. This is like a core belief that I have not yet gotten to work through, or I have not yet worked through. It's still there, that I make bad decisions. But I feel like you just made a good decision. And so I think you're shifting that. So my goal is to make enough decisions that I can prove to myself that I am good at making decisions, or I make decisions that get me closer to the future that I want to live. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's only through making the decisions. I can't think about it anymore. I just have to do it. The world doesn't exist here. It exists in 4D out here. And so I've wasted far too many lifetimes thinking about the things that I've said or done. And now my challenge to myself and everyone listening is just like, just do it, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
You're thinking of a thing. I'm thinking of a thing. Just do it.
Yeah. Do it and like make the mistake that you're scared to make and learn from it. And because that's all the people that you're looking at that have the thing that you want, or that have done the thing that you want. Like they all took messy action and they didn't have it perfect to start off with. And there's nothing different about you. My
first boss in the Army, it was my first day. I like showed up to Afghanistan. It was my first day. I'm like 23 years old. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like it's my first real job in the Army. I show up, my boss is like this 30-year Special Forces colonel. He's like the baddest dude I've ever met up until that point. And his name's Fred Dumar, and he's like 6'7", and he's covered in tattoos, and he's like really I was shitting myself nervous. He turned out to be like the greatest guy ever. But we had a long talk, and he was like, "Are you prepared to do this job?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh, you're going to do it anyway, though." And he was like, just mess it up. And he said to me at the end of our conversation, he goes, "People's memories are short." And I was like, okay. Like, just do it. Just like do whatever. They're going to forget. It's fine. And this kind of leads in. I had a conversation. I talked about the writing trip that the guys are on right now, and had a conversation with the guys from Rufus about a year ago. We're in Mexico City, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, how do you know a song's ready? Like, how do you know? Like, we're putting a bunch of paint on the wall. Like, what's going to stay? What's going to fall? Like, how do we know? And he's like, we don't. And he said, Tyrone, he won't listen to this, but like, he goes, people only care if it's awesome. And I was like, okay, that's a really cool way to look at it. He's like, just put it all out there. They only care if it's great. If it sucks, nobody gives a shit. And I was like, that's great. So now me being afraid to show up sounds pretty silly.
Right.
Knowing what I know.
We love a good perspective shift.
Yeah. So I've just changed how I feel.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
One thing that I wanted to talk about was your challenge that you did, or what did you call it? Do you not want to talk about that? No. Well, I think you've done multiple.
I've done a lot of things in my life. What are you?
Okay, so it's the one that you were telling me about. It was like 365 days or 370.
500 days.
500 days.
The Green Days thing.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I feel like that's really cool.
So this is my favorite thing I've ever done, and nobody knows about it. I've talked about it to like 7 people, and you're one of the 7, which is crazy.
I'm honored.
So I tried to build an app. Somebody's going to steal this idea and build the app.
Oh shit.
It's okay. It's fine. Okay. If they build it, that's great.
Abundance.
I don't give a shit. We can talk about it. So I tried to build this app, and I was so stoked on it. I was broke also, and I was like trying to do it with no money, and you can't do anything with no money. So during COVID, I was like, okay, I want to take a deep dive into like what is contributing to how I show up in the world. And I wanted it to be objective and subjective. And I had some things that I was really interested in tracking, but I hate wearables. I was really frustrated by the data and like how it differed from what I was experiencing. And I was like, okay, well, the thing's telling me I'm recovered, but I feel like shit. That's weird. Oh, it's telling me I feel like shit, but I feel great. Like that's even weirder. And so I built out this like Google spreadsheet, and I had one objective measure, and it was hours slept the night prior. And then I had four then. I have five now. I have 5 additional things now, but I had 4 then. Play is on my list now. But I had connection to self, connection to other, intentional movement, and life-giving nutrition. Those are my 4 things for the day. And they could take many forms. It's like you could do one thing that hit a bunch of them. You know, if I train with you, that's probably connection to other and also intentional movement. But I would click them off like check, check, check for the day. Then I would rate the day based on a color gradient. And this is what you wanted me to talk about. Yeah. Okay. So the day would either be red, which was like, oh, I'm frustrated with how today has gone. I'm not prepared or excited for tomorrow. That was red. Green or yellow was today was okay. I'm not better, nor am I worse for having experienced today. I feel indifferent about tomorrow. I'm not excited. I'm not sad. I am. And then green was like, today was valuable. Today I made a valuable contribution to myself and others, and I'm excited for tomorrow. There was like specific language around it because I would like read it to myself. But I did 500 days in a row. If you had to guess how many days were green for me, you might already know.
Well, I know the answer. Well, actually, I don't know the answer, but I feel like it was something like, well, I mean, if I were to guess, like I would have probably guessed like 100.
Yeah.
Like a fifth.
That
maybe
seems
were
reasonable.
green.
Like 20%
green.
Yeah. 14 were green for
14
me.
days.
It's 2%.
Yeah.
So 2%.
That's insane.
2% of my days, I went to bed and I was like, oh, I made a valuable contribution to my own life and somebody else's, and I feel excited for tomorrow.
Wow.
14 days, 2 weeks out of 500. That's like a year and a half. And I was like, oh, that's wild. There was a lot of yellow and there was way too much red. And like, mind you, it was COVID. I was like starting a couple businesses. We were burning the candle at all ends. And I looked at the data and it was really surprising. It was like, if I got 10 hours of sleep or more, automatic green day. So all 14 green days had 10 hours of sleep or more in my sleep the night prior, which like cool data point. The other thing that they also included was intentional movement and connection to other. So a green day, if I had 10 hours of sleep or more, green day. If I had intentional movement and connection to other inside of that frame, it's green day. So those 3 things were present in all 14 green days, which like wasn't something that I would
expect.
Think. Yeah, I didn't think about that before. And then the yellows, they were a mix of stuff, but it was basically like 6 hours of sleep was pretty much the line. If I got less than 6, it was automatically red. And if I got 6 to 10, it was a yellow. But the data that was most exciting to me was like all of these days where I felt like I had contributed valuably to myself, my own development, and the development of other people. And I was also excited for tomorrow, incorporated quality sleep, connection to other people, and then intentional movement. And so the app was like to have people connect, kind of like a Wordle type thing where it's like you fill out your metrics, you send your color score to somebody else, they get to connect with you over like their experience and yours. They can be an objective reference point, and you get to build a relationship through the thing. So somebody could steal that, I guess.
Well, maybe someone will hear that and be like, that's a dope idea.
Yeah,
and then maybe they'll reach out to you, and then you guys can partner and do it together.
Cool. I'd love to talk about it. But I thought it was a cool thing. And so now I use the same system, the green day. I call it green days, but like when I work with somebody, they have red, yellow, and green. And we just use those as data points to open conversations. And so it's like, you show up to a coaching call, which I really don't do that many anymore, but like you show up to a coaching call and you're like, yo, if I look at my last week, it's like a lot of red. And I'm like, okay, well, what are the behavioral steps we could take that might hedge your bets somewhere closer to yellow? We're not jumping to green, but we're going to get you to yellow first. And it's like, once we've gained control over yellow, we can like push towards green. But for most people, it's like stress reduction and then setting the conditions for better, higher quality sleep. So my big priority now is sleep quality. So everything I do in my day, I have had 14 Americanos today, but
probably doesn't help with the anxiety, I'd say. But
outside of that, my biggest priority is sleep. My only priority is sleep. It hasn't always been that way, but I have, like I said, there's a fifth one. I have 6 pillars now: quality sleep, connection to self, connection to other, intentional movement, life-giving nutrition, and play. And if I can get all of those in some way during my day, then I know for sure I'll be better off than if I didn't. And like, if I don't, that's chill. Like, I'll be fine.
Yeah, totally. It's like data. It's just taking data. And then when you see the data in your life, it gives your mind something, it gives evidence to a belief, a good belief where it's like, oh, sleep is good for me. Because sometimes we just need to see the exact data in front of us.
And then it always goes back, for me, it always goes back to awareness and like subjectively, how are you feeling? I know a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, you could take the perspective like, oh, feelings don't matter, act in spite of your feelings. But like, I'm really interested in like how my body feels, like getting that connection or building that relationship with myself. And so it's like, okay, yeah, I can have all the data, but then I can also like, because what the data says something valuable, I can check in and see how my body feels in the presence of this data. And then I can like draw the connection. It's like, oh, when I feel this way, that probably means that I'm treating my body well, or like, you know, whatever it means. Or it's like, okay, because I've taken these active steps and I'm sleeping better and I'm getting more movement in and I'm connecting with friends and family, like I'm feeling a certain way, probably more regulated, probably calmer, probably sleeping better, you know?
Yep.
It's like the chicken or the egg thing. What comes first? You having feelings or you doing the things? I think it's both.
I think it's both.
But you're just building confidence that you can do what it is that you need to do. Yeah. Haven't figured it out yet though, but we're working on it. Trying. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I feel like, again, we could talk for hours and hopefully I can have you on again and we can talk about like some of even like the technical stuff, like cold exposure, breath work, like, you know, all the technical stuff, which would be fun. Dopamine.
This is how this normally goes. I have a sit down to have a talk and I want to talk about like practical, like how to implement this stuff in your life, and it never gets there. But I would love to do that.
Yeah. We'll do a series. Yeah. It'll be great. Because also, you know, here's the thing too. It's like everyone wants like the tips and the practical stuff, but what we just talked about today is like really hits the core of it all. Yeah. And then you can add the fun extra stuff on.
Yeah. And it's for like expectation management. People are always like, oh, it's going to be some new like groundbreaking thing. You already know all of the stuff. You already know all of the stuff. You do it naturally. It's just, I'm going to open up an opportunity for you to do it with more intention.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. Take a deeper breath. Get cold every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, look people in the eyes when you talk. It's like silly things like that. Like you just do those things and then your life gets better. It's crazy.
It's all simple. Yeah. It's the simple things are the things.
Yeah. My goal is, and I guess we could like end at this point, but my biggest frustration with like the wellness community at the moment is like I go online and I Google, because everyone goes to Google first. I Google like about how to solve a problem that like matters a lot to me. Like I can't sleep, or like I'm feeling anxious, or I'm like super depressed. Like I'm trying to kill myself. How do I do that? Like it's very important to me, the Googler. And there's 40,000 things I'm supposed to do right now to solve the problem. Like I'm supposed to do all 40,000 of these things before 11 a.m. Like I can't even brush my teeth and check my email. Like what are we doing? And
like the Huberman morning routine.
Yeah. Like from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. I'm occupied, like regulating my body. And that's not to say like all of those things are probably valuable.
Absolutely.
But not everything works for every person all the time.
Right.
It doesn't. And so my charge to myself, or like the thing that I'm committing my life to, is like helping people figure out for themselves, what are the like 3 or 4 things that'll actually drive the needle and put you in a position to access that future that you want to live. Because once you gain competence with 3 or 4 things, you can add 3 or 4 more.
Like absolutely.
Like we just have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get paralyzed by the idea of starting.
Yep.
Me included. Mm-hmm. You Google analysis paralysis, my photo, the same photo as the other.
The same photo. Wow.
Yeah, I'm wearing this shirt in it, actually. But like I'm the poster boy for overthinking and like not acting. And it's like, well, if we can just parse it down into like one thing first, then a second after you're cool with one, like then you build that momentum, and then you don't have to worry about anything else because you're off to the races.
Yep.
Which is cool.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say to the people? Like anything else that is on your heart that feels like would feel good to just wrap this episode up?
I'm really grateful to be here, and I feel very present in this moment. And so I'm just going to continue with my 3-step process. I'm present here with you, and I appreciate the space and the time. I'm grateful for the experience. I'm really excited for a friendship and for also more podcasts.
Oh,
So it's been great to be here. I live in Venice. If you see me out there, just give me a hug or something.
yes. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to wrap it up. So
Yeah.
the steps are presence,
Yeah.
gratitude,
Yeah.
and excitement.
Yeah.
I love it.
Easy.
Easy peasy.
Easy.
Done.
Yeah. And if you're really struggling, it's okay. We all are.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. If you want to be friends, my social media is Ben V Smith, BenVeeSmith. My website is the same, benvsmith.com.
I'll link it all as well.
And then I talked about taking active steps into a future worth living. For me, that's like being more public in my work. I have a training app that it's just like a basic introduction to resistance training. I do the training on the app, but it's like in gym with weights, without weights, body weight, mobility. There's even a breathwork section there. I'm hoping to grow it and expand it to make it a more robust offering over time. But right now it's a pretty simple, accessible way to introduce resistance training, which is like the thing that I love most into your life. That's called Train with Ben, and you can access it at trainwithben.app.
Sweet.
I cannot believe I got through all that without messing up.
Good job.
Somebody sign me. That's all I got.
Sweet. We'll wrap it up. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.